All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking about real music in real time for a few real people out there just like you and me. Sad news from the music world again. And look, a lot of these folks are getting a little long in the tooth. And I don't think 76 years old is, you know, I mean, isn't Sammy Hagar 76? And Mick Jagger, he's like 80, and Ringo, I think he's 83. So I guess people can live a fairly long life. Some people can, but Melanie, who you may remember as a singer from Woodstock, a folk singer, and she was quite good, very quirky. I think she was like a precursor to like Edie Brickell and the New Bohemians. I think um, she was like before Edie, it was Melanie. Anyway, the brand new key singer, Melanie, who found fame at Woodstock, died at age 76. Yep, 76 years old. Melanie Safka, the singer who went by the mononym Melanie, famous for songs including Lay Down, Candles in the Rain, and Brand New Key, has died. She was 76. Now, when I worked in the world of classic rock back in the 80s, every so often we would play a song by Melanie, usually one of those two songs. And typically people from that generation who were listening to classic rock appreciated the Melanie songs as they were spicing up a fairly bland and ordinary playlist. A song by Melanie would typically be on a compilation of one-hit wonders, and maybe deservedly so, although she had two fairly popular songs here. Anyway, the news was shared with CNN by Billy James of Glass Onion PR, who said Melanie died on Tuesday. A statement was also shared to Facebook on Wednesday from Melanie's children. You know, it's another little editorial comment I'm going to make here. Facebook is still the communication hub of the world, it seems like. Somebody has a birthday, what happens? Facebook blows up. People want to post their cooking stuff, pictures of their food. Facebook. I'm sorry. I got tired of Facebook like 5 years ago, and I'm over there, but I know people are always looking for me over there, and I just don't post. I don't do anything. I've come really close to just shutting the whole thing down, but I communicate to certain people via Facebook, so hence I still have it. But I really don't want to continue on Facebook. You're patronizing a site that I believe is harvesting all kinds of information from you. And they have a political agenda, which I think isn't good for the country. And people from across the ideological spectrum believe it's really just a grift. It's a money-making operation, and it pits people against one another. So there's my super long, statement on Facebook. But anyway, the important part of this statement here from Billy James of Glass Onion PR is that there was no cause of death. All right, so on this channel, we've established that 76 is 109 in pharma years. Okay, just putting that out there because I think it's true. But 76, I guess, for the rock star folk singer lifestyle, people will say, well, it had to be her lifestyle. And 76, Dave, nothing to really see here. Okay, fine. Originally from New York City and the daughter of a jazz singer, Melanie released 2 singles and an album in the late 1960s, but it was her appearance at the Woodstock Festival in 1969 that cemented her breakthrough. And this is why people who listened to me on the classic rock station enjoyed hearing Melanie on the radio. Her songs today sound very dated, but it's a format that if you put it in context, it wouldn't sound so bad listening to a song by Melanie. She wrote a song about the experience at Woodstock. It's 1970s Candles in the Rain, which became Melanie's first U.S. hit. Other hits from the singer include Peace Will Come, the Nickel song, and a cover of the Rolling Stones' Ruby Tuesday. Now, pretty sure Melanie was one of those peace and love activists, and good for her, because she and that generation of people were right about war. A lot of people today won't admit that. In fact, a lot of people from that era are now the people in charge of sending people off to war. So that's kind of disappointing, right? Due to her growing frustration with her record label at the time, Melanie went on to found Neighborhood Records, the first female-owned independent label in rock history. This, according to an obituary from Cleopatra Records provided by Glass Onion. Melanie's 1971 hit Brand New Key, her first single for Neighborhood Records, later enjoyed a resurgence of popularity as a featured song on the soundtrack for Paul Thomas Anderson's 1970s era Boogie Nights movie from 1997. After largely withdrawing from the spotlight to pursue other passions, including becoming a spokesperson for UNICEF, Melanie remained an independent artist for much of her career, releasing albums throughout the 1980s and 90s, along with a 2010 record, Ever Since You Never Heard of Me. Melanie remained active up until the end of her life. She published her memoir, Lake Days, last year, and her final tour in late 2022 took her to the Netherlands. And she also had a newly inked deal with Cleopatra Records, according to that company's obituary. Now, that's kind of interesting. She just signed a record deal with Cleopatra Records from Los Angeles. So she was still active, which would imply that she was still healthy enough to be active, right? Earlier this month, now I'm putting this video out here in late January. Earlier this month, the singer recorded covers of songs by Morrissey and Nine Inch Nails for an upcoming tribute album that would have been her 32nd studio album, a collection of covers tentatively titled Secondhand Smoke. Melanie is survived by her children Leah, Jordy, and Bo Jared. In their statement on Facebook, again, Facebook on Wednesday, her children wrote that their mother was one of the most talented, strong, and passionate women of the era, and every word she wrote, every note she sang reflected that. So, nice tribute to Melanie. But again, the nagging question is, she's still working, she's still active, she's recording music, and it seemed like an interesting album because her choice of covers and her singing them, I think, would have been interesting to hear. And all of a sudden, she's gone, and there's no cause of death given. Obviously, she wasn't sick, because if she was sick, then how would she be recording this month? You know, you have to read these articles nowadays and think, okay, it's kind of like a car just going along perfectly straight down the road, and all of a sudden it just goes into a ditch. And you're like, huh, that's weird, because the car was running and there are no warning signs that the car was going to just kind of fall off the road. But here we are, you know, and it's the new normal. And we're now in the year 2024, and the new normal shows no signs of stopping anytime soon. Our thoughts and prayers go out to Melanie's fans, her family, and in general, the world, right? I mean, if this is going to happen and people don't really care about why it's happening, and I do these videos, and then 2 days later, somebody will send me something and say, well, it was X, Y, and Z. Well, why didn't they say so at the beginning? I'm not going to do mea culpa videos and come back like a week later and say, I'm sorry. The reason I'm not going to do that is because I think people should be somewhat transparent. I understand that the person has a legacy. So say Melanie, and I'm not saying she did, but say she died of something that's going to make people think, wow, I was thinking about maybe downloading some music, but that's bad. I'm not going to do that. You know, your perception of somebody will change if you hear that they were involved in something which doesn't sound good, which may have contributed to her passing. And I'm not saying this is anything. This has nothing to do with Melanie's death, but I'm saying there are times when you hear about a singer who may have, used a certain substance, and then you go, oh, well, it's too bad. And then you just kind of walk away from it because now you have a negative perception of that person. And this is, I guess, how you protect the person's legacy and their estate. You want to make sure that that estate can still maybe earn some revenue off of the work of that person. So anyway, those are just a couple of thoughts on this. I may be way off, and I admit it. I may be way off. And people, they approach me and go, no, that couldn't have been it. But isn't it weird? You're just working. It's like you're running down a road and you just stick your foot in a pothole, even though I don't know. Maybe that's a bad analogy, but the car running perfectly and then the engine just shuts off. Okay, what? Why? But yeah, the new normal. That's why. And we'll continue to pursue these stories. And it's actually good to be wrong in this situation. Believe it or not, you have to have a little bit of humility. I know there are people out there that will look at everything that occurs. And some people accuse me of this. Some of these I look at and I go, that sounds kind of weird, but I'm not going to cover this because people are going to think I'm just, like an ambulance chaser. And that's not it at all. I just want to get to the bottom of what appears to be an increase in overall mortality in pretty much every country around the world. That's why I do this. So, and when it happens within the context of music, yeah, I typically will cover it. So anyway, folks, thanks for watching the channel. Don't forget to subscribe. I've got new patrons coming on board. This is going to be your channel as far as viewer supported. It's like PBS, it's viewer supported. People like you, right? I point a lot. People like you are supporting this channel and keeping it going. Patreon, YouTube memberships, attaboys, likes, all those sorts of things. I have a few detractors out there, people who don't like me for various reasons. I'm pretty easygoing, and some of the conversations, though, that I see about me, it's just funny because that's why I'm called Harmless Dave. All right. If you meet me in person, I'm fairly harmless. I may argue from time to time, but I'll eventually go away. Like all of us, we'll eventually all go away. We'll all be like Melanie at some point. But we're here for a time, and I think we have to sound the alarm when things don't sound right. And for me, it's more or less about pointing people in one direction, and that would be the cross, right? And that would be Jesus. Those things are more important than even speculating about the end. But you're not going to be able to witness to anybody if they're not here to witness to. So, all right, I think I made too many points and I need to stop. So that's what I'm going to do.